Hey, everybody. Welcome to Century Managed WordPress Hosting's very first webinar ever. Very excited about being able to share with you some of the people that I know in the WordPress community and who have agreed to share their amazing talent and knowledge, not only with us, but with you as well. So let me introduce a few people to you. First, I'm going to introduce you to Carl Nazel. Carl, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here as well.
It's always good to see you. Carl is the owner or co-owner, along with Sarah, of Century Managed Hosting in Camno, which is, I was a coding company, but you're more than a coding company. So, Carl, before I get to our special guest, just tell a little bit about you and what you do with the company.
Yeah, Sarah's my wife, so we get to co-own the company, which we love. We love that we get to do it together. And really, I think our focus, both from Camna, which is more the web development side, the coding side, like you said, and the Century Hosting is we like helping people. We love that's kind of our goal of our company. Is really we love to work with our clients. We like to partner with them, and so that's what we're doing. And even the webinar come out of just trying to find ways to help our clients, especially in these times. So.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. I actually, most people know me. I work with Give WP as my full-time job. I'm on vacation this week, but I also do I do the digital marketing and manage a lot of the content for Century Hosting and our new websites, Century Cares and Joyful.give. So a little bit more about those on the websites, and we might wrap back to those at the very end, but I don't want to keep waiting on our special guest today. So I asked Topher DeRoja if he would be willing to come and be our first, I wanted to say tribute, like volunteer as tribute, like you volunteered as tribute to be here today. But thank you, Topher. You came to talk about e-commerce and demystifying e-commerce. I think that a lot of people think it's harder than it is, or it's just completely overwhelming or baffling. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm really grateful that you're here today to talk about that. Before we kind of launch into that, just tell us. I know you have an about me slide, but tell us a little bit about like the nutshell version of you, your family. That kind of thing.
I live in Michigan. I'm married with 2 daughters who are old enough to drive out to get me food when I ask them nicely for it. I have 2 little dogs. I am a web developer. I've been lately working for BigCommerce the last couple of years. And I'll talk about that more when I get into the presentation. But I am very active in the WordPress community. I also run a site called HeroPress.com that has essays from people who have used WordPress to change their lives, to make their lives better.
And the first time I ever even heard of the name Topher was at I think the very first WordCamp, 2015 or 16, I don't remember which one, back in Philadelphia. WordCamp US, that is. And I saw Topher give a talk about HeroPress, and I was blown away at how big the community is and how HeroPress actually just pulls it all together and ties people together. And then last year we reconnected when he asked me to write my essay for HeroPress, which was pretty cool. So and I'm very good friends with your wife, Kate, as well. So hi, Kate, if you're watching. And you have a wonderful family, but that's not why we're here today. Although it is nice to know that the person we're talking to is such a cool person. But without further ado, we really do want to let you kind of launch into talking about what we're here for today, and that's about building e-commerce websites with confidence. So we're going to let you do that.
All right. I think you're controlling when my screen appears. So let me know when you can see my slides.
It's up there now.
Excellent. So we're here today to talk about building e-commerce sites with confidence. A lot of people can feel nervous or unsure about the process of building an e-commerce site. So we're going to talk about some things that can relieve some of that stress. My current position is Senior Developer Advocate at BigCommerce, which is an e-commerce SaaS, software as a service. You see the hashtag there, BigCommerce for WordPress. One of the reasons I work there is because we have a WordPress plugin, and I'm helping to get that plugin integrated well into the WordPress community. If you're more interested in that, we can talk about that later. You can find me at Topher1Kenobi pretty much anywhere on the internet. Twitter, Instagram, Slack, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you Google for Topher One Kenobi, you will find me. I've been a web developer for 25 years now. My wife likes to say I've been building websites since before there were pictures on the internet, and it's literally true.
She's not wrong.
No, she's not wrong. And I've been a WordPress developer for 10 years now. In 2010, when WordPress 3.0 came out with custom post types, I jumped right on board. So I've been doing that. But now I work for BigCommerce as a developer advocate, communicating between the developer community and the company so that I can help other people, other developers, build well with BigCommerce. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about some misconceptions of e-commerce, things that people might believe that aren't actually quite true. We're going to demystify how e-commerce actually works, the process of what's really happening when you go through that. And then we'll look at some solutions to common concerns. And then we'll look at some long-term solutions, things that will continue to help you without you needing to actually do anything. So, some e-commerce misconceptions. My next slide after this is a tweet that I sent out yesterday. But before I get there, I want to tell you my story of my misconception, which is, it wasn't a misconception at the time, but it is now. In the early 2000s, I was an accomplished web developer. I knew what I was doing. I was freelancing, young father, sole breadwinner, and a client came to me and said, I'd like to sell stuff on my website. And I thought, well, I can do that. How hard can it be? Really, my only two options at the time were PayPal and Authorize.net. So I went with Authorize.net and I went to their documentation and I started reading. And 4 days later, after only a couple hours of sleep, I realized that this was horrible. The documentation was not great. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in over my head. And then a wiser developer said to me, even if you figure this out, what are you going to do, Topher? What are you going to do when 5 years from now your code gets hacked and somebody loses their life savings? And that scared me. That's a big deal. That's not just having your brochure website taken down and you have to start over. That's really, really changing things. And so I said right then, I'm never going to do e-commerce again. This is too scary. And here I am working for an e-commerce company. But it's different now. It's very, very different. When you want to sell things on the internet, you don't have to hire a developer to go build a payment gateway for you. There are things that have been built now that make it much, much easier. So the tweet I sent out was, what's one thing about e-commerce that scares you or makes you nervous? And I asked some people specifically, but I got a lot of answers from a lot of people. And one was that I'm nervous I won't set up and manage taxes correctly. Don't forget that, I can't remember his name. Al Capone. Al Capone went to prison because he messed up his taxes. I don't want to go to prison. So I don't want to mess up my taxes.
It's not high on my list either.
Yeah. And then the next one mirrors my own. It was not, this isn't what I put in. Somebody said, what if I get sued because we're hacked and things go south? I could never deal with getting sued as a freelancer. That would destroy my family. I worry that I won't have all my I's dotted and T's crossed. From all the little settings, payment processing, taxes, shipping, inventory, it goes on and on and on. And then taxes would be the death of me. Even if you do get it right, taxes are hard. But there are ways to mitigate all of this stuff. And so I'm here to give you some of that confidence, be able to face some of these fears head on and breeze right through them. So let's first look at what e-commerce really is, how it actually works. The first thing that happens in e-commerce is something people often don't think about. It's awareness. It's when that customer realizes your site exists That could be from a friend who told them about it, or they read about it online, or they saw a card or a billboard or whatever. And then they come to your site and they find products inside your store. Then they move on, they select a product, they put it in their cart, and then a purchase is made. And it can be via credit card or digital payments like PayPal, or other services like Klarna, which offer flexible payments. And then it gets shipped. And shipping now is very different. A couple of years ago when they invented the tracking numbers and you could look online, I thought, wow, this is great. How could you get better? Just the other day, I got an email that said, click here to track your product. And it showed me a map with the truck on a street in my neighborhood, showing it getting closer to my house. I thought, wow, this is amazing. So shipping is getting much more robust than it used to be. And then there's delivery. The thing arrives at the door, and then one of the most important parts comes after delivery. And this is a lot about engagement and customer management. You want to send them a thank you email. You need to communicate about them if they want to do a return or exchange. You want to send them discount coupons for next time. You want to turn them into a friend, into a loyal buyer. So this is a very, very important step. But behind the scenes, there are some other things that happen. What's actually happening when a payment is processed? When they click that button to send their credit card information somewhere, it goes through a payment gateway, which is an interface between your website and the actual credit card company and the bank. And they take the money from the customer's account. They divide up the taxes and pay everybody who needs to get paid for taxes. And then the money is transferred to the merchant's account. Additionally, if you have accounting software or inventory software, then this process alerts that software so that you don't have to manually manage inventory and accounting. You just go to the end of the month and look at it, and it tells you this is all what was purchased, and your inventory software sends you an email. It says, hey, you're getting low on widgets, etc. And the last thing is that products are shipped if they're physical. If they're digital, obviously, you just download them. But shipping is even different now than it used to be. There are things like drop shipping where you don't actually have to physically do anything. Your stuff just goes out. So these are things that actually happen during the process. And so next, we're going to talk about some solutions to common concerns. How to figure out how to deal with those things that happen during that process. How do I ensure e-commerce security? Part of it is standard website security. You want to keep your website secure the way you would any website. There's some good plugins here that I've got listed there on the right. But you also want a good host with good engineering and good support. And I don't just mean calling him at 2 a.m. because your site is down. I mean being able to get a hold of somebody and discuss security measures. What are they doing? What could they be doing in the future? What can you change? Someplace to get wisdom.
We've got that part covered for you with Sentry. So.
Awesome. Excellent.
Great point, though.
Yeah. Check your PCI compliance. Your store needs to be PCI compliant. And if you're running a plugin like WooCommerce, then PCI compliance is your responsibility to make happen. And that's an enormous amount of work. If you've never dealt with PCI compliance, I highly recommend you avoid it at all costs. If you use something like BigCommerce for WordPress, then the PCI compliance at checkout is handled by BigCommerce, and you don't have to worry about that. And that covers just most things. I mean, you still need to review your site and make sure you're not storing data you shouldn't. But if you can get your e-commerce running on a SaaS like BigCommerce, then you're going to avoid 99% of the headaches of PCI compliance. Don't store sensitive data on the web server. Don't keep it there at all. Something like WooCommerce, again, will keep order data and customer data right on your web server. If you get hacked, that gets stolen, and that's not a good thing. With a SaaS like BigCommerce, then that data is actually stored on the e-commerce server, so that if you get hacked, it's a much less of a big deal. You restore from backup and plug the hole, and away you go. You're not calling 100,000 customers and explaining. You should always enable fraud protection for your e-commerce system, whatever system you're using. Fraud is a huge deal, and it will cost you a lot of money. Even if you get your money back, just dealing with fraud is time consuming and expensive. And there are a wide variety of options available to you. Look at your e-commerce platform and see what's available. Also enable distributed denial of service protection. This can bring your store down and just stop it. If nobody else can get there, then it's effectively offline. And there are many, many ways to mitigate this as well. You could get a service from the outside that provides a firewall. Your host can help you with that. Your e-commerce company can help you with that. So there are a lot of options there, but you should absolutely be looking at that. So these are 6 things that you should be taking care of, and that's going to get you a long way down the road toward e-commerce security. How do I manage taxes correctly? I'm going to be short and to the point. Use a service. Taxes are horrible. When I first signed on at BigCommerce, I took their support training so that I would learn how the system worked. And one of the things they had us do was set up manual taxes for Oklahoma, which has hundreds of tax zones per county and many, many counties. And it was awful. We quite quickly realized that it's not scalable. It's not sustainable to manually set up all your tax stuff. Services like Avalara and TaxJar are relatively inexpensive, and they're amazing. You say where you are, you tell them where you're selling, and they plug into your e-commerce platform and do their magic. They figure out who owes what, where it goes. They send it to them. They send you a report at the end of the year. It's just amazing. My last recommendation is to consult a business tax professional for your geographic area. Rules and laws are different everywhere. So find somebody near you who has experience with e-commerce, tell them what you're doing, and they will give you whatever advice is unique to your area.
Topher, we have a couple questions that have come in through our different.
Sure.
So the first question is from Dallas Martin. Does BigCommerce plugin encrypt all transactions?
Yes. So the actual part where you check out is an iframe embedded into your WordPress site. So the actual page where the transaction happens is on the BigCommerce servers, and they run SSL, of course, as you would need to. They have a uniquely high level of PCI compliance. I didn't know this either until I started working there. There are different levels of PCI compliance, and they have the highest, which is extremely difficult to get. And so they are certified to be really, really tight about where data goes and how it's managed and things like that.
We also have a question from Dallas as well. Do they need a database server if they're using BigCommerce?
If you're using traditional BigCommerce running right on their servers, no, they take care of everything. It's like using them for your host. If you're running BigCommerce for WordPress and you're embedding it into your WordPress store, then you need all the normal stuff that WordPress does. So you would get a host that comes with MySQL, and WordPress would create its database for you and all that kind of stuff.
Fantastic. Let's see. I think of one more. No, I guess the rest of this is all comments about how much of a pain in the butt the taxes are. So
Taxes are a pain in the butt.
We all agree with that. That's universal. I got lots of feedback.
as soon as the government's involved, man, oh man.
Yep.
All
right. So the next one. What about payments processing? As I mentioned, when I got started early, there weren't a lot. And what was available was difficult to use. But these days, there are hundreds of payment processors. I've listed a few here: Stripe, PayPal, Authorize.net, Square, Amazon Pay, Adyen, and all of that. You should look at your options and don't just go with what's popular, because many of them have unique features. Adyen is extraordinarily multi-currency. So if you want to sell in Europe or Asia, then they're great. Stripe is excellent for high risk products like CBD. Just there are a lot of options, and you should look around for more things than just what's popular or what's cheapest. That said, go ahead and compare processing fees. They vary pretty wildly. BigCommerce has an agreement with PayPal. We have the cheapest processing fees from PayPal of anybody in the whole world. So that's a positive there. Yeah.
Here's another question. Why would I choose one payment gateway over another? And what should I recommend to a client? Now, I know from my work that not every payment gateway works in every country. So that's the first thing, is you have to make sure that if you're choosing a gateway, it works in the country that you're selling from. But what other things need to be considered?
Yeah, my next point there is to make sure we work with your bank, but you want to make sure they work with everything you're doing. So make sure they work in your country or the country your customers are in. Make sure they work with your bank. Look at how much it costs per transaction. Look if there are annual fees. Look if they have any other unique features. Stripe is extraordinarily flexible from a programming standpoint. So if you need to do something really unique, your developer is going to like working with Stripe a lot. First look at your needs, then look at the payment gateways and see which ones line up with what you need.
Thank you.
I was going to chime in too, just thinking along those lines is, I know other thing that we've had to look at is the currency. To your point of currencies, like sometimes your client is, hey, I want these currencies. Well, that starts to limit your choices. And obviously it works with whatever software you're doing, like you said, like, so if you're, doing BigCommerce, what are their selections? If you're doing WooCommerce, what are theirs?
Right.
If you have, or frequently if you have an online store and you have a point of sale system and you have, 3 systems, just to your point, you often find an answer once you put all the pieces together and you say, well, this is my choice that fits all the, all those checkboxes.
Yeah. And you can have more than one. I don't recommend more than 2 or 3, but it's extremely common to have something like Stripe for credit cards and PayPal for people who just want to do digital. I mentioned earlier one called Klarna, which is a payment service where they offer to the customer something like layaway, where it's not like layaway, it's more like a short-term loan. They arrange for monthly payments, but they pay the full amount to the merchant up front. So you as the merchant don't have to take on that risk of monthly payments, and yet the buyer, the customer, gets to have that flexibility. It's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at some stats here. BigCommerce has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of payment gateways available around the world. It's very international. So if you need something specific to Holland, for example, there's one in Holland that everybody uses, and it's not anything you see on this page right here. It's just unique to Holland, and we support it. So if you want to sell in Holland, you can. That's another thing. When you're looking at your platforms, there's BigCommerce, there's Shopify, there's WooCommerce, there's a lot of options. See what they offer as well. All right, so how do I set up the right shipping options? I like to recommend to use a shipper you're already familiar with. If you already have a brick and mortar and you're already fully embedded in UPS or FedEx or something, talk to your representative and see what they can do for you. Often they want to keep your business and they will offer you deals that you might not otherwise have. If you're starting from scratch, shop around for rates. See who's offering what. Just like the phone company and the cable company, they do deals occasionally. Find out who's offering something. And then form a relationship with your shipper. Usually you get a representative at the company and you can call them and say, hey, I'm offering a new kind of product. I'm offering something extra large. What can you do for me? And then leverage what your platform offers. So if, for example, you're using BigCommerce, we have some bulk deals with many shippers, and we can. It's like having a customer appreciation card at a grocery store or something. We have deals that can be available to you. And if you use, how do I want to say this? Because we have established relationships with many shippers, many of the setup procedures are streamlined. So if you were just to go independently to FedEx and say, hi, I want to sell stuff online, it'd be like, okay, here's all the steps you need to do. Well, if you use a service like BigCommerce, we have a cute little form that you fill out and answers all those questions, and away you go. So that can be really useful.
I know also that, let's just say for WooCommerce, for example, where everything is on either the site owner or the designer, the developer, to input a lot of information and calculating shipping costs, figuring out the shipping tables. That was enough reason for me to not offer e-commerce as a solution to people when I was freelancing, because I was like, I can set this up for you if you're going to flat rate ship everything.
Yeah, and a lot of that can be a headache. Like even if you do sign up, even if you go through a service like BigCommerce and use their UPS add-on, it can be a headache. And so that's why there are services like Shipper HQ, which take it one step further and do a lot of that work for you. Yeah. And they can help you set up one account that interfaces with UPS, FedEx, and USPS all at the same time. So you answer all your questions once, everything's set up on all of them. That's really great. That's almost always an added fee, but at some point it becomes very worth it.
We have a question from Philip Sawyer. Does BigCommerce calculate shipping automatically based on the product dimensions and weight? So how does that work with BigCommerce? How you figure out what the shipping costs are?
Yeah, it does figure it out. By default, you have to do things like enter in your dimensions and weight for all your products, and then you have to say, this is where I ship, and this is how much I'm going to charge to ship there. Once you start getting into things like Shipper HQ, then they fill in a lot of that information for you. You just say, here's where I am, here's where it's going, how much is it going to cost? So your options are pretty varied, but you don't have to start from early scratch, and that would be horrible.
Thank you.
All right. Inventory management seems complicated. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. For your simple options, any decent platform will let you enter how many products you have and then count down by sale. And they'll usually email you and say, hey, you only have 10 left. You need to do something about this. Many platforms offer add-ons to get a little more elaborate, and usually those add-ons are either cheap or free until you start to get to substantial heavy lifting with data. And then you're looking at advanced options. Many of these advanced options can integrate with custom APIs. So if you're coming in when you have a warehouse that already has an inventory system that you paid to have built, a lot of these can integrate with custom unique systems. And then, at the end of the day, we have an API for inventory, and you could have something written that would work for it. So it really runs the gamut, all the way from easy, simple inventory management that just works, all the way to a really big platform selling millions of products that needs some custom and unique work.
Of course, digital products are the easiest because you never run out of inventory and you don't have to ship them.
Yep. So your FTP server goes down, and then you are completely out.
Hey, don't say that.
Which would never happen on Sentry Hosting.
Never. That's what redundancy is for.
That's right. So now I want to talk about building long-term confidence. The things that I told you just now are things that you can do things you're going to have to do upfront for setting up a store. But once they're done, they're just kind of done. But there will always be some long-term fears. And so I want to talk about that. Get a good support structure. And again, I'm not talking about somebody you call at 2 a.m. because your server's down. I'm talking about people you can get a hold of and say, am I running my business properly? Is my site built properly? Is my SEO good? Should I get a different bank? Places like BigCommerce have a ton of training and education available to you. And a lot of it's free. You don't even have to be a customer. Our blog is amazing. I didn't really read it much before I started working there, but I was blown away by the depth of wisdom that's there, regardless of platform. It's not about hosting on BigCommerce. It's all about running an online business. And taking part in that community can be enormously helpful. We have a developer Slack channel, which isn't just for hardcore developers. It's for anybody building a store. And so you can get in there and talk to other people building stores and say, listen, this is what I think I want to do. Is it sane? And you can get really good feedback. So I really recommend not being the lone wolf out there selling stuff by yourself. Get in touch with a good support platform.
We do have another question here from Dallas asking, does BigCommerce offer a REST API?
Yes, absolutely. That's actually how the WordPress plugin works, is over the REST API. Our GraphQL API is very nearly ready. And so you can use it now if you're in the beta program. But it's very close to done. So then you'll be able to do different things with GraphQL.
One other question.
I want to say one more thing about the REST API.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the industry, ours is particularly robust and amazing. I'm gonna quote some numbers because I'm very proud of them. Shopify's API can do 2 requests per second, and if you call and ask, it can go up to 10. Our REST API does 400 requests per second. And not only that, you get an entire product in each request, all the data about a product. So you're not making multiple requests per product. So it's really, really powerful. It's one of the very best APIs for a lot of traffic. What was your next question?
So the next question I think is actually more for Carl, but it says, we need to know who to call at 2 a.m. when the server is down. And that's all about your hosting. So Carl, you want to answer that one? I saw you answer to the channel, but that was only in YouTube. I'd like Facebook to see this too.
Yes. So let me see what my answer there was. Obviously, if you have an issue, you reach out to us anytime. But you really server shouldn't be down 2 a.m. Our view is we don't want a QM call, and so we're gonna make sure it doesn't go down because we all want to sleep. We want you to sleep. We want to sleep. We're like so our goal is reliability so that we can all be in bed and sleeping when we should be sleeping. But yes, we're around anytime you need us.
So you would call Sentry if you're using WordPress. If you're using traditional BigCommerce, then we are the host. We have a 99.99% uptime, which is above the industry standard for e-commerce hosting. So it's probably not going to happen at 2 a.m. But meteors happen, so you never know.
If it's a meteor, it's probably a bigger issue than a 2 a.m. phone call. One other quick question from Dallas wants to know: is the REST data handled as JSON or XML?
I know it handles JSON. I think it's just JSON.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
These are great questions coming in. I love it. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, moving on. So in addition to a good support structure, get a good team. Most e-commerce platforms are built out of the box so that you can build a store without being a developer. But if you need to do something custom, a developer can save you both time and money, a lot of it. So If you want to be a developer and you want to do some research, more power to you. But I'm telling you, if business is your thing and you want to do something custom, just get a developer and have them take care of it. There's always a question about where do you find a developer. Rely on trusted sources like your e-commerce platform to make quality recommendations. The slide here shows a picture of our certified experts. You can see there's 704 of them listed in here. And you can see there's a start of a refine by thing. You can look by your need. So if you're looking for a designer or a backend developer or a front-end developer or whatever, we can make good recommendations. And then something very important is a good developer will help you know what questions to ask to anybody you need to. So they might come to you and say, listen, you need to ask your host this question. Maybe, can I get more RAM? Can I get more CPU? I'm importing a lot of pictures. How can you help me with space? They can tell you exactly what question to ask. They can come to you and say, we're dealing with a shipping issue. You need to go to FedEx and you need to ask them this question. So there's a ton of wisdom that comes with a developer, and that can be priceless.
Mm-hmm.
So in summary,
before you summarize, we have another question. I was waiting to see what came up next. So Serena joined a little bit late. She asked a question that we haven't actually talked about yet, which is what if somebody is running pickup? So, if restaurants are using, do restaurants use BigCommerce? I know that they can use things like WooCommerce to do and fulfill orders. Yeah. Can you also arrange for pickup orders if you're using BigCommerce?
Yes. In fact, we had a store go live yesterday doing that. So yeah, you can do it. It's much more common in the last month than in the last lot of years.
Right? Exactly.
So the demand for it is really high. So we're rolling with the punches and we're learning and experimenting. We've done it for a long time, but society is being stress tested right now. And so we're learning some new things and getting better at it. But yeah, we're doing it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can summarize now.
All right. So this whole thing is about being more confident. And I want to reassure you that help is always available. Always. There's documentation. There's personal support. BigCommerce has phone support. You can call them and talk to them. And then every service, every vendor, every add-on maker in e-commerce benefits from your success. If you're successful, they're successful. They want to make money. So they want to help you make money. So they want to help you. Don't be afraid to talk to them. They are anxious. They are excited. They want to help you. So don't feel intimidated. Just go ahead and reach out to, if somebody built you a plugin or built a plugin that you're using or you're using some service, reach out. They're happy to help you. Feel free to contact me anytime. There's my email address. You can find me. I'm on the Make WordPress Slack at Topher1 Kenobi on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of it. I've listed some resources here that I pulled some of this data from, and I can make the slides available so that the links are available to you, so you don't have to frantically write them down right now while I'm talking. Screenshots.
If you tweet them out, we'll retweet them. How's that?
Oh, that's great. We'll do that.
Perfect.
We'll also post them on the this webinar page on Century Cares.
Yes.
That way they'll be there for archive purposes.
Awesome.
That's great.
We'll put them everywhere.
All right. So that's my last slide.
Fantastic.
Do we have any more questions?
None that have come in right now, although we've got 23, 24 people watching right now. So if anybody has more questions, we still have a few minutes that, pile them in there because we'll ask them. But
one of the things I get them all at the end, but it was kind of nice getting them in the middle.
Well, they seemed relevant at the time, so I thought it'd be nice to pop them up there while we were going through things. So let me kind of go back about 8 years in my own freelancer experience before I, joined a company that now I don't have to worry about next month's paycheck. But first of all, this is a funny story. The first website I ever built for a customer That wasn't a friend or anybody. That's just somebody that hired me.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted it to look just like this other website. And I was like, well, I can use that theme. I can make it, whatever. And they said, well, how much would you charge me? And I was thinking, oh, I could turn out 3-4 websites a week. Because what did I know, right? I was like, $300, right? This is only 8 years ago. I mean, it was crazy undersold myself. And then like, oh, but it needs to be able to sell stuff. So it needs to be e-commerce too. And I was like, well, it's going to cost a little more. $500. And that was also the first. Well, I paid a lot in sweat equity and for my own education on that one. But that's
what did you use 8 years ago for e-commerce?
I used WooCommerce. So at least I tried to. She was also drop shipping, and it was definitely a nightmare for me. Yep. She was also kind of a nightmare client. So anyway, I learned a lot in my first client. But so that's when I learned that WooCommerce was very difficult to set up on my own without having any understanding of how shipping worked and whether or not I had to charge taxes and what states that she might have to pay taxes depending on. And that's when I found an online resource. So at the time I was I'm recommending to all of my customers Ecwid, which it sounds like it works very similarly to it's a SaaS solution with a plugin that just serves everything into your website, but you could manage everything offsite. So you're managing your inventory, you're managing your sizes, everything is happening on the other website. And so for me, that provided a lot of confidence in the fact that I couldn't screw up the database and lose all of her products. I couldn't, make huge mistakes in how payments were processed because it wasn't going through. I mean, this was before anybody was really, first of all, we were hardly even doing mobile sites back then.
Oh, right.
No. I didn't know what an SSL certificate was, so not taking credit cards through her website was probably a better option. It's all of these things that as a new freelancer, I was set to make humongous mistakes. And so, a solution like BigCommerce to me just sounds like a no-brainer when I think back to all those questions that I had early on.
I have a great story that I love to tell. I have a friend named Morten Rand Hendrickson, who is the lead WordPress trainer for LinkedIn Learning. He was there with Linda before they got bought. And WordCamp Europe in Germany last year. Right before I emailed him and I said, hey, could I interview you at WordCamp about e-commerce and WordPress? And he said, sure, but you're not going to like what I have to say. And I thought, oh no. And I said, why? Do you hate BigCommerce or something? He's like, oh, no. I don't know anything about BigCommerce. I just don't think e-commerce should be done in WordPress at all.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I said, oh, well, tell me more. And he said that WordPress is so easy to get into that it's very common for people to think that e-commerce is just as easy. And they jump in with both feet and they're immediately over their heads. And they're risking hundreds of thousands of dollars starting a new company, taking out business loans on something they have no business doing. E-commerce is not the same as doing a website.
Yeah.
And he said it's just too easy to get wrong. I said, so what do you recommend? He said, well, you should use a company who is dedicated to e-commerce, and that's all they do. And I said, man, you are preaching to the choir here, because we are a company that does e-commerce, and we allow you to run it through WordPress in such a way that you avoid all of those fears of, am I risking my customer data? Am I setting up my taxes wrong? Am I, all those fears? It's just, we handle so much of it. He said, well, there you go. You're doing it right.
We have two more questions, one from Phil and one from Serena. Before we get to those questions, and I promise we will in just a second, folks, I do want to just mention one other thing, and that really doesn't have as much to do with e-commerce as it does your entire website, especially if you are a business building a website or you're businesses online, and that's you really should look into business insurance, especially errors and omissions,
Oh,
to
sure.
make sure that you're covered in a lot of ways. So if you're listening to this and you've never heard of errors and omissions, please contact your business insurance company and just take a look at that, just to make sure that you're covered in lots of ways and not just in your e-commerce way.
Absolutely.
So the first question is from Philip. It's, does BigCommerce handle recurring payments and subscriptions? So if I want to join the Widget of the Month Club, can BigCommerce handle that?
Yes, we do. And I want to say two things about it. We do have some native functionality that does it just fine. But I want to speak to our third-party integrations serving. I don't know, service? It's not a service. We integrate with a lot of third-party apps and platforms.
Mhm.
So there are 4 or 5 different subscription services that extend what we do a great deal. And that applies to almost everything you can think of related to e-commerce. So we have a bunch of integrations for accounting. So if you're already using QuickBooks, we have a QuickBooks integration. If you're already using something else, we probably have an integration for that. We talked about shipping with like Shipper HQ. They're another company. They have a service that they offer, and we have an integration for it. Inventory, but just about anything seriously that you can think of, you can buy a bigger, badder version of what we offer if you need it.
Fantastic. The second question comes from Serena, and so she agrees. She understands that she came in a little bit late, and so she may have missed this. But we actually didn't talk about this. So BigCommerce is an option other than WooCommerce, and it's a SaaS product that's not sitting. You're not storing all of the information in your website. It's an offsite system that feeds into your website or serves into your website. How does somebody sign up for BigCommerce? How do you implement it?
That's a wonderful question.
Aren't you glad I asked?
I am so glad you asked.
Or she did. Serena, thank you.
It depends on what you want. If you just want to sign up for the service and run a store on our servers, just go to bigcommerce.com. There's a little tab at the top called Essentials. The homepage is really for larger stores. So if you go to Essentials, it's for small and medium business, and you can sign up for a free trial for 15 days. And if you like it, then after that, it's $30 a month. If you want to do the WordPress route and run your store through WordPress, you can actually just install the plugin. It's free. It's on WordPress.org. Install the plugin, and part of the wizard is creating an account. And it comes with a 15-day trial, and then you can choose to continue or not. The trial comes with some demo products and a bunch of pre-configured settings to sort of give you a little jump start on what it's like to have a store and run a store. So you can quite quickly see what it's like to use the product.
Great question, Serena. Thank you. Any other questions? Carl, do you have any questions for Topher today? I mean, we've got him. We don't want to let him go.
I know it. I agree. See how long I can corner him here. I love it. What I had just obviously given the world today, every question comes from that point, is, we're getting a lot of people that wanting to do e-commerce that are kind of, I'll say, wanting something quickly, whether it's quickly because they want pickup or their local shop and they need to sell stuff online, shipping coffee, whatever it is. What's your advice for quickly getting started with e-commerce? A lot of people are on a very accelerated timeline. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Talk to the platform that you're most interested in and find out what they offer. We have a plan right now that we're calling Bricks to Clicks. And
I love it.
The whole point is that you are a brick and mortar who's been doing great, and now your doors are closed and you need to sell online tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We have a whole contingency plan set up for you. Do these things in this order, and you will be selling as quickly as possible.
Excellent. I love that.
We have a couple more questions too, so I'm going to feed those up here. I might cover your face here, Topher. I'm not sure. This is a big question, but no, I didn't. I wasn't sure. This is our first time on the platform. So, okay. So Phil asked, if he has a WordPress site that already has a custom mobile-friendly design, does BigCommerce's integration with WordPress give some design flexibility and support for mobile devices also?
Oh yes, tons of it. When we decided to do this, we hired a company called Modern Tribe to build the plugin, and they are one of the very best WordPress development companies in the world. And they know all about responsive design and stuff like that. So out of the box, it should work very well. It's going to be responsive. Your archive pages are going to fit well. Your single products are going to flow nicely. But in addition, we have very many template files, and they follow the standard WordPress template structure. So you can pull the templates into your theme and change them however you want. It's very, very flexible.
And does it adapt to CSS? So if I wanted to change the color of a button or something, can I do that?
Yeah, there are a lot of options there. We have options in the customizer to do things like change button colors, but there's also the option of turn off BigCommerce's styles.
Okay.
So that if you already have all your styles all set up, you can turn ours off and just simply lay your style sheet on top of our HTML.
Nice. I love CSS and it's fun to play with. Serena has a couple more questions. Let's throw this next one up here.
Sure.
Wondering about the sale of wine, beer, cider. Let's call them, controlled substances.
Yeah.
So like I have to be 18 or 21 or whatever.
Yep.
That just told you how old I was because I was 18 way back in the day. Anyway.
Yep.
As the oldest person in the room, I'd like to know about selling wine, beer, and cider online.
So those products are called high-risk products. They have a name. They're categorized, classified, all that stuff. And the thing that makes a difference about whether or not you can sell it is almost always the payment gateway. Some payment gateways will handle it. Others won't. Stripe was one of the first ones to do CBD. And they did it technologically, but even at that, a lot of, like Shopify said, no, we're not going to sell CBD, even though technologically we could with Stripe. BigCommerce jumped on board with CBD, so we're in early with that. When it comes to things like alcohol, there are a lot of issues. You have to find a payment gateway that will do it, and many of them will do. Alcohol's been around a long time. Many of them will. But you also have to look at local laws. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is very conservative. And we have a lot of wineries in Michigan who have lobbied heavily to prohibit the importing of alcohol. So my state, Michigan, has made it a law that I cannot buy alcohol from California and have it shipped here.
Gotcha.
So when it comes to at-risk products, it's a lot less about the platform, a lot less about BigCommerce or WooCommerce or Shopify, and way more about laws and things like that.
Which is what her next question was about, needing a legal signature and age for those kinds of sales and where it could be shipped or sold to. So so you really have to look at your payment gateway, and you have to look at what the laws are for. Is it both the shipping location and the receiving location, or is it all about receiving as far as
it's both? Okay. My friend Pippin owns a brewery in Kansas, and he's not allowed to ship out of the state.
Okay.
They can have stuff come in, but he can't ship his beer to me. It's very sad.
I was going to say, what a shame.
Yeah.
Road trip. So.
Yeah.
There you go. Can he bring it to WordCamps whenever we start having those again?
He does. He can, and he does.
There you go. Perfect.
When he comes to WordCamps, he brings usually a case and shares it around to friends.
This is the Pippin from Sandhills?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, one of the reasons he changed the name to Sandhills instead of Easy Digital Downloads is that he wanted to open the brewery and put it under the same company. So it's Sandhills Brewing. And
cool.
they have 2 or 3 shops now. It's really impressive.
And they're the shop behind, or Sandhills is behind Easy Digital Downloads as well,
Yes.
which I use on a daily basis. So very cool. What other things do you think we should know? We're all out of questions unless anybody else has any. And I want to also be cognizant of your time. We have just a couple minutes left. Is there anything else you want to share before I talk about our next webinar?
I don't know. Serena asked if BigCommerce is an option other than Woo. And yes, it is actually. It's absolutely an option. For a long time, Woo was kind of the only option in WordPress. And we came in to not get rid of Woo, not surpass them, but supplement. We do some really great things that Woo does not. And so now you have an option.
Dallas asks a question about, does BigCommerce support purchasing and shipping of gifts? So can I ship to a third party separate than my own address?
Yep. And you can do custom fields for things like leave a special message or whatever.
Excellent. And that's very important, especially in our COVID-19 world that we live in right now.
Yes,
I got an extra shipment last week from Amazon, and I was literally like, my Echo told me I had a shipment at the door, and I was like, I didn't order anything. The first thing I did is look to see what did I order that hasn't been received yet. And I went to the door, and it was my Mother's Day gift early from my daughter. So
nice.
She had it just drop shipped right to me through Amazon. So
Nice.
That was pretty cool. Very nice.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So next month on June, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, 17th, we have Mike Demo is going to be coming, and he's going to be sharing with us how to connect, how to have a human connection with your customers and clients in a COVID-19 world. So how, we talk about e-commerce, and that is one way that we've changed the way that we do business with people when we can't meet face to face. How do we actually continue to have that human connection when we can't meet face to face? And so Mike Demo is going to be with us next month. And of course, you can go right over to centurycares.org and sign up for that webinar as well. And we'll be posting that out in our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page also. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Topher, for being here.
Topher. Yeah.
Mike's a good friend. Say hi to him for me.
I promise I will.
Come join us, Topher. Come back.
Yeah.
We'll just have a big old party every month.
Yeah.
I'll ask awkward questions in the comments.
No, he didn't do that to you. I'm actually joining him and a bunch of people on Sunday for a virtual Escape the Room event.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
So and it's going to be some people from Canada and the US and several different states, and so hopefully we'll escape the room virtually.
I can tell you how to do it. You just close your browser.
Yeah, well, I didn't pay $25 just to close my browser. Anyway, thank you so much, especially for your faith in us to be our first webinar. We appreciate you so much.
Oh, sure.
And for sharing all of your insights and information with us. So Thank you. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you.
Of course. Yeah, good to see you, Carl. Good to see you. And
as always,
anybody can continue to ask questions on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, email us at marketing@century.io, and we'll make sure that we get your questions answered. Or you can just direct message Topher on Twitter and any of all those other places that he mentioned. We'll have all of that out in all of our different channels, so you'll be able to see all of the notes from today's episode, today's webinar. I don't know what we call it, but thank you so much for being here. And until next month, we'll see everybody online. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.